Greetings, friends. Russian occupiers continue to carry out terrorist attacks against our country. Last night they launched a massive attack on Zaporizhzhia. The Russian army can add another great victory to its list of achievements. They destroyed a branch of Nova Poshta, struck residential buildings and burned civilian cars. Today is a day of mourning in Kyiv. As a result of yesterday's attack, it is currently known that at least 22 people were killed. Russian degenerates are openly celebrating the mass murder of Kyiv residents and calling it a great success.
To our successes. Last night we carried out a massive strike on the Ukrainian armed forces centers in Kyiv.
They called the strike on a residential high-rise an attack on the armed forces of Ukraine, but then admitted that they hit a residential building, though not on purpose.
Yes, sometimes houses get hit. It happens to everyone. Yes, it happens. Although we perfectly understand that, well, the Russian army does not aim deliberately. It's completely senseless. It's just absurd. Yes, well, different situations happen.
As a result of the Russian attack on Kyiv, a citizen of the United States of America was also killed. But America, as always, responded pathetically. Trump said that he doesn't know anything about it. Maybe he'll look into it later. And at the State Department, they condemned the attack rather reservedly.
We are aware of yesterday's attack on Kyiv, which resulted in numerous casualties, including the tragic death of a United States citizen. We condemn these strikes and express our deepest condolences.
Well, so what if the Russians killed a citizen of the United States of America? Is that really a reason for the United States of America to respond in any serious way? No, of course not. The Russians might get offended after all. Those very same Russians who are openly laughing about this murder.
Turns out it was one of us who took out the American. Oh, an American died. Come on, listen.
But the Russians aren't laughing about the situation in the Middle East. The so-called Russian Federation's ally, Iran, is very close to defeat. The situation is alarming. And you know when else the Russians aren't laughing? Not at all, ever when they're dead. To make sure there are as many dead occupiers as possible, start sending 2 hryvnias each right now to the current Russo-Rizes campaign.
Thank you to everyone who donates, shares and supports.
All of this is possible thanks to your 2 hryvnia contributions to Russo-Riz. So donate, support the army, support the armed forces of Ukraine.
All the payment details as always are in the description of this video. Be sure to join in and also join my channel. Subscribe if you still haven't done so. Let's talk again about Iran and Israel. Israeli aviation continues to carry out airstrikes on the Iranian capital, Tehran. In turn, Iran is trying to retaliate by attacking Israel, but the effectiveness of these attacks is questionable. Israel, for its part, is destroying Iranian air defense systems. And in principle, it can probably already be said with confidence that Israel controls the Iranian skies. And although the United States of America is not directly involved in the attacks on Iran, Trump has still claimed this achievement as his own.
We now have full and absolute control over Iran's airspace at this moment.
The old man is pretending that everything is happening exactly as he planned, as if he wasn't the one who, just a few days before Israel's attacks on Iran began, was urging not to strike Iran under any circumstances. Now, Trump says that Iran must urgently surrender.
Unconditional surrender. We know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. His precise location is no secret to us. He's an easy target, but he's safe there for the time being. We're not going to take any action to remove him or to attempt to kill him at this time. At least not for now.
Let's go over this again. The United States of America is not directly involved in the attacks on Iran, yet Trump is demanding Iran's surrender as if he himself is carrying out these attacks. However, it's possible that the United States of America might actually enter the war. Western media claim that Trump and his team are considering a number of options, including joining Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, and the next 24 or 48 hours or half a year or maybe even 10 years will be crucial, and maybe the United States will enter the war, or maybe not. We'll see. I wouldn't be surprised by such a scenario either, especially since Trump, as I've already said, is a man of his word. He said he would be a peacemaker, which means he would be ready to start a war.
The greatest legacy will be as a peacemaker and a unifier. That's who I truly want to be, peacemaker and a unifier.
As I've already said, it's somewhat disadvantageous for us that Israel is striking Iran because it diverts the world's attention from the Russian-Ukrainian war and also contributes to rising oil prices. However, we still need to see the positives. It is highly likely that the Iranian regime could collapse, And this means that then Communist China, North Korea, and most importantly the so-called Russian Federation will be left without a serious ally, one that will stop supplying components for drones and definitely will not supply ballistic missiles. The Iranian opposition, represented by Reza Pahlavi, the Iranian crown prince, is already preparing to take power and is calling on Iranians to rise up against the Ayatollahs.
The regime's machinery of repression is falling apart. All that is needed is a general uprising for this nightmare to end once and for all. We are fully prepared and absolutely ready to take the lead after the fall during the important and pivotal transitional period and to establish a truly national and democratic government.
So, what about the Russians? The Russians are in mourning, and at the same time they are thrilled by how Israel is conducting its military operation against Iran.
Now, against the backdrop of the operation they are conducting, the campaign in Ukraine is raising even more questions. The Israelis prepared their operation much better.
Vladimir Putin himself has not yet publicly commented even once on the Israeli-Iranian war, and it's especially difficult for Russian propagandists who seem to be condemning the Israeli attacks on Iran.
Yes, Iran is currently facing completely unjustified and absolutely treacherous political pressure and military aggression from the collective West. It's not just Israel.
But since the so-called Russian Federation has simply abandoned its ally, let's call it what it is, Kremlin propagandists have to somehow explain why Russia isn't helping Iran. Iran didn't ask the right way.
Is that a reason to provide assistance? Yes, we're ready. We support you. Of course. But maybe you could at least make a request?
And really, who even needed that Iran? Did it have any value at all for the so-called Russian Federation? Sure, it helped the Russians in the war against Ukraine, but not for free. So let Iran probably pay the so-called Russia for the help.
According to some reports, supposedly Iran provided us with assistance by supplying something and someone. For free, really?
Weakening Iran also means weakening the so-called Russia. And Vladimir Putin is stuck in an uncomfortable split. On one hand, he can't afford to quarrel with Trump, with whom he has grand, wonderful, friendly relations. Maybe they're even in love with each other. But on the other hand, he still has to somehow support Iran, because otherwise it will be tough.
Because right now, the situation is developing in a direction that's definitely not in our favor.
And now, turning to the topic of the Russian-Ukrainian war, the United States of America continues to stall on providing aid to Ukraine. Yesterday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky arrived at the G7 summit. But he never got to meet or speak with Trump, because Trump left the summit right before Zelensky's visit. The United States also has no plans to impose sanctions against the so-called Russian Federation in the near future. Senators Lindsey Graham and Blumenthal are focusing on a revised version of their bill, which might, if we're lucky, be considered in July. But that's not certain. Trump failed to get Vladimir Putin to at least freeze the Russian-Ukrainian war. And let's be honest, he didn't really try that hard. But don't jump to conclusions. Perhaps the United States will do even more nothing about it. Trump's special representative, Keith Kellogg, plans to travel to Belarus in the coming days to meet with Lukashenko to discuss a ceasefire between Ukraine and the so-called Russian Federation, since the negotiations have reached a deadlock. I think the United States should go even further right away and ask for mediation from North Korea, or at the very least to get some kind of result from the trip to Belarus. They could unveil a monument to a cow together with Lukashenko.
A cow deserves not only a monument for the years of the Great Patriotic War. Let's think about it.
At the same time, the situation at the front remains extremely difficult. The Russians continue their offensive in the Sumy region, but their advance has slowed down significantly. However, their main directions of attack are the Pokrovsk, Kostiantynivka and Novopavlivka sectors. Yesterday, something incredible happened in the Kostiantynivka sector, something we haven't seen in a long time. The Russians advanced in a column for a massive mechanized assault. However, they never made it anywhere, because the warriors of the security and defense forces, including with the help of drones that you contributed funds for, destroyed the advancing Russian column. With your ongoing support, we continue to purchase many FPV kamikaze drones every day and deliver them to the front. And thanks to you, our soldiers received another 290 new FPVs just in the past day.
Friends, hello to everyone. On behalf of the fighters of the 423rd Separate Battalion of Unmanned Systems, City and Griffins, we would like to thank the Sternenko community and Serhiy himself for the first batch of these excellent drones. These are sevens, but they are of very high quality. I would like to point out a few details about the delivery itself. First of all, I am impressed by the speed. Secondly, I'm impressed by the package content. You won't say what else was included in the package, but it was a very pleasant surprise. Our drone team also appreciated the quality of this product. It is made from very high quality components, and that's great, because it's a real pleasure to work with such equipment. So thank you to the Sternenko community and to Serhiy himself for this batch of drones, for these wonderful 57-inch, very high quality, very beautiful drones that will be flying towards the Russians. There will be fire, there will be burning, and it will be a beautiful sight. And all of this is thanks to your tool, Hryvnias for the Russois. So donate, support the army, support the armed forces of Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine.
The Flying Skull Battalion thanks the Sternenko community. Thanks to these drones, we will be able to defend the north of our country from the enemy invasion even more effectively.
We, the Sapsan Unmanned Systems Battalion, sincerely thank the Sternenko community for 30 FPV drones that will destroy the occupiers. Glory to Ukraine.
Glory to the heroes. We, the 216th Separate Battalion of the 125th Brigade, sincerely thank the Sternenko community for providing us with FPV drones. Let's make more good Russians together. Glory to the nation.
Death to the enemy.
Thank you to the Sternenko community for providing 20 Hornets, which will be used to strike the Russians. One love.
Horizon Group of the 81st Separate Air Mobile Slobozhanska Brigade has already shot down over 100 enemy targets. The lion's share of them was shot down thanks to the charitable foundation of Serhiy Sternenko. Horizon Group thanks Serhiy for his ongoing support of the group. There will be even more enemy targets. The heavenly Raskata will continue. Glory to Ukraine.
Glory to the hero.
Glory to Ukraine. We, the artillery unit of the strike UAVs, Vonyany Ri of the 43rd Separate Mechanized Brigade, would like to express our sincere gratitude to the Sternenko community for your incredible support and for providing 50 FPV drones. This is not just equipment, it is our strength and our precise strike against the enemy. Thanks to you, we will be able to destroy the occupiers even more effectively and bring victory closer. Thank you to everyone who donates, shares, and supports us. Your support is a weapon, and this weapon is already at work. Glory to Ukraine.
Glory to the heroes. The Russian summer offensive campaign is now in full swing. The enemy will deploy ever greater forces to seize our land and kill us. And now more than ever, we must actively continue to support the security and defense forces of Ukraine.